Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm going to start in 3. Okay, if you want to POI, just unmute. If you want to, yeah, I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. O and CO lost this debate because they only rely on why smoking is bad, but they all already because they never negate on why the end of the day people won't be incentivized to smoke. OG cannot win because they only explain on the principal justification why this is immoral, but they never explain what then is the solvency in the server house. We want this. Here's an important framing before I engage to all tips, right? I don't think I think it's going to be hypocrite if opposition wants to talk about environment or health, right? We don't think Sri Mulyani or government actually cares about environment health in and of itself. Indonesia is the one that extract crude palm oil in an inhuman way, making environment in Indonesia to be more deteriorating. Indonesia still has a lot of SOEs and companies who still commits agenda that deteriorates the environment, making toxic waste making toxic waste create pollution. Indonesia never actually banned food companies that incentivize people to create excessive food waste and create harm impact to the health of people due to fast food because Indonesia still cares about profit. So I don't think environment health should be counted in this debate. Right? I'm going to engage the O first. So they say that layoffs are something that are not exclusive. Here's the thing. Number one, we understand that layoffs tend to happen due to externalities like COVID-19 pandemic, right? But even if this is true, in Archard House, at least workers that have been laid off due to externalities can demand compensation and severance check in Archard House. Why is this likely? Because we don't tax them and they cannot use the narrative like, oh, I cannot give you a severance check because my company also suffered from crisis and have been taxed highly. Therefore, the comparative here, at least in our house, at least when there's laid off, at least we can demand compensation in comparison to opposition when companies can be high this halfway taxation. This is something that never been engaged by OG. We're the one that explained to you why layoffs are far more better inside the house if it's something that's inevitable, right? Secondly, they say that, this will reduce the amount of health costs to the nations, right? We think that the analysis of health costs will be reduced in up is contingent upon the analysis on whether or not people eventually do not want to smoke. This has been contested by OG, but I don't think O did not answer as to why in the house people will still don't want to smoke, right? Well, OG only talks about how people are impacted by this. My members are the one that's explained to you on how the healthy taxation is going to incentivize tobacco industries to create more predatory marketings and commercial. They might persuade people on the grassroots, for example, through smuggling, right? Why this is likely? Because companies are inherently profit-oriented. They still want to churn out money, meaning that they will do what it takes to churn out money because companies inherently cannot be inherently profit-oriented, right? But here's the thing, in Arshad House, my member also explained to you on how in Arshad House, health costs will still be fixed in Arshad House. Number one, it's not like we're going to allow these companies to commit tax evasion. There will still be amount of tax, right? If it's true that tobacco companies are that benevolent and create economic benefit through tax allocation, even if we decrease the amount of tax through 25%, there will still be amount of money that will churn out, right? So that's not much of a loss anyway. This is the comparative that OG never brought. Number two, CJ is the one that tell you that on how when we don't have fully tax, we have the leverage to pressure companies to give donations to people with disease to smoking. Why comparatively in the other house this will not happen? Because all companies that have the tax, they do not want to donate because they use this standards like, oh, I have done enough by taxing. Why should I donate, right? This is something that's never been engaged by CO. When my member has emphasis on this, right? When there's actually incentive for tobacco companies to be more aware to their consumers, but when you give them tax regime, they will going to react in a much more defensive way because they still want to pander to their profit. They still do not want to disappoint the investors, shareholders, right? What is the conclusion with all? all lost because their benefit cannot fly, because they failed to explain why people will stop smoking. We are the ones that explain to you, number one, regulation exists. Number two, even if number two, they're still going to make it worse, right? Let's go to CO. So basically, they say that activists can. They say that, oh, we can still control companies by heavily tax them through activists and advocacy, right? We think that even if activists can do this, I don't think that the advocacy of activists will be effective, because most likely the impact of activists will only be echo chambered to environmental activists and to people who already work. This will not change anything because companies know that consumers is heavily dependent on it, right? They do not want to give a shit, right? Number two, they also said that, oh, they also engage to our benefit when we talk about scholarships, when they say that scholarship is still bad because it only panders to privileged people who has good CPs. Exactly right. Outside the house, when we don't heavily tax them, at least the benefit is we can pressure them and demand more minimum quota. Why this is something that's exclusive in outside house, why this won't happen in CU? Because companies will use narrative like, oh, I cannot give more employment, more wages because I have been taxed. The comparative is at least we demand, we can give demands and pressure to the tobacco companies to give more CSR to the people with much more lenient lenient quota. In their house, they're only going to make it worse. Right? Here's the thing. I don't think that CO cannot. I don't think that CO cannot just say that even if we have this benefit, it will still bad because it's still going to profit. It's still going to be profited to the tobacco companies. At least in outside the house, when we can still have this benefit of employment, benefit of protection, that's still a benefit anyway in outside house that's exclusive and will not happen in closing opposition and opening opposition, right? Here's an important framing, right? We understand that the benefit of this half taxation might result into like lots of economic benefits because of tax allocation. We already explained to you, right, on how tax allocation will success because we do not cut all the tax. Number two, even if that's true, even if it's true that that countries are relying on this tax allocation, meaning that countries are the one that have bad budget allocation management, meaning that the government is the one that already fucked up because they only prioritize to their bureaucracy, right? The comparative here is we are better than CONO because we're the ones that explain why they're going to make it worse. We're better than OG because we actually give solvency in outside the house why protection will still exist. Very proud to propose.